I would like to thank everybody for joining us for our chat today. We're going to be talking about a topic that we started discussing last summer at the Ag Media Summit about billing and what do you do when clients don't pay and how do you handle those sticky situations. And so today I'm excited that we get to have two experts with us who've been in the trenches. And while they may not claim they're an expert, they've definitely been there and done that and had to deal with lots of different types of clients. And so I'd like to welcome LeAnn Peters, the Director of Communications for the Mississippi Cattlemen's Association, and Kent Jaecke, owner of Focus Marketing Group and entrepreneur of lots of things. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to you guys to tell us a little bit more about you and what you're up to these days.
Well, Jennifer, thank you. I'll get started. Again, I'm LeAnn Peters. I'm with the Mississippi Cattlemen's Association. I've been doing this now for about 16 years, and before that I was with Cattle Today, selling advertisements, so I had to also get the money then as well. So, you know, it's not easy, especially when markets are down, like right now, and you know, so we'll just kind of talk about some of the ways that we can try to get our money, and I'm going to throw it over to Kent and let him kind of introduce himself, and then we'll go from there.
Well, thank you. It's a pleasure to be a part of this. My name again is Kent Jaecke, and I'm co-owner of Focus Marketing Group. We do basically all marketing options for clients, farmers and ranchers throughout the United States. So we deal one-on-one with farmers and ranchers on a day-to-day basis, doing multiple things from web design to logo design to ad design, catalog design, but most importantly we do photographs and videos, which is our major 80% of our business. And like LeAnn said, in a down market, a lot of the things that we do are directly related to how they're getting paid. And so if you know, in a down market when the money is tighter, some of the things start happening, i.e. Accounts receivable start growing. And so that's kind of the thing that we've had to deal with. We've done a pretty good job. We've got a system set up. And then one other thing I was going to also tell you is that, so we do from that side of it, but I think LeAnn's going to be able to hit on some more things from an association standpoint, from an actual business standpoint, where they've got, you know, she's doing advertising, but they also have memberships. And so in our specific case, we have nothing to hold against them. I'll just kind of share some of the things that we do. But on the other hand, I'm also, Jennifer had mentioned that I'm an entrepreneur. I don't know that I would consider myself an entrepreneur, but I am an independent contractor. And an independent contractor, I work about 100 livestock sales a ring and 100 livestock sales a year. And so I have to collect for my own work and services that I provide too. So I'm gonna let LeAnn kind of go through what they do, kind of some of the things that they do, and then I will hit on some of mine for both companies that I have to invoice for, and then we can hopefully open it up for questions, because I think there's going to be a lot of questions and a lot of rhetoric here going back and forth on maybe the way we can answer questions for people.
Okay, well, Jennifer kind of touched on a little bit about, you know, how this got started, and really we were at lunch one day during LPC, and my question was, you know, how do you get paid? Unfortunately, we don't here at the association have a set policy. I think that's something that we're going to have to start moving toward to try to get, you know, we actually have, you know, we invoice people every month. We invoice them as soon as possible, and then, you know, every 30 days. We do not assess a finance charge, which I think we probably should. I know that Kent can talk a little bit more about that they do, but it's just not something that we do. You know, our advertisements, we have a lot that are every month, what we call small breeder ads that appear every month, that they pay for that usually once a year. That's pretty easy to get unless somebody passes away and the family doesn't tell you and we don't know about it, and So that's kind of one thing I think we need to, you need to think about is make sure that you're, people have not gone bankrupt, have not gone out of business, things like that. But, invoice as soon as possible. That's kind of one of the big things. One thing that Kent was talking about, I do have a little bit of an advantage with our scholarship program to get paid. To get a scholarship, your parent or grandparent has to be a member in good standing with the association. So if I have somebody that has an outstanding bill, then their child does not get their scholarship check until we get paid. So that's fairly helpful. Some of the things that we do with ours is we also try to give them a call if they are behind. Just a little friendly telephone call, or I'll catch them if we're at the livestock shows in the barn or at a sale, and just kind of pull them aside and say, hey, we've got this outstanding bill. I need to, have you forgotten about it? Do I have the wrong address? That kind of thing, just to let them know that I know that they need to get something to us. I think on one of my other slides, one of the next few slides, I can't advance my slides. Right. So that's okay. Make contact with the person that writes the check. I know Kent has a great, if you want to chime in here, that's fine. My thing is, there was a few times that I've been sending a check to, or sending an invoice to someone's daughter who is supposed to be handling that, and come to find out she never told her dad that they were getting these invoices. He didn't have a clue that everything was not paid for. When you talk to them, ask for a full payment immediately. I also ask for credit cards, because then that way I know I've got it. Kent, you've got a great story, I think, that you told yesterday or day before about writing the check. Right.
I've got a really good friend that we do business for, and he's notorious for saying one thing and then getting busy. He's truly very busy, and I know that. So the other day, when he's owed me the money for quite a while, and we've already sent him a second invoice and added the 5% interest on it. And I said, I'll take the 5% interest off if you'll write me a check and get it in the mail today. He says, I'll do it. I said, okay, get on your four-wheeler and your pickup, go to the house right now. And so he says, you're kidding me. I said, no, I'm not kidding you. I said, get in your car or get in your truck, go to the house right now. So he goes to the house, hands his phone to his wife. She puts it on FaceTime, and I watch him write the check, put it in an envelope, and send it to me. But I made him do it because I knew that he would not do it. And it's not that he doesn't have the money. In this specific case, he had the money. It's a matter of fact that it's just for whatever reason, he puts things off. He gets so busy doing things. But that's part of the reason I'm staying persistent on these people, because they may tell you one thing, and that's what I was telling LeAnn. I don't mean to ruin your presentation here, what you're doing, but I make them on a phone call tell me what day they're going to send it. And I say, okay, so you're going to send me a check November 1st. Yep. And before we hang up, I say, now when you sending me that check? And I make them say November 1st, so that on November 1st or November 5th, when I don't get a check yet, I can call them back and say, I thought you said you were going to send me a check November 1st. Didn't you tell me you were going to promise me you're going to do that? I make notes on all those. I got an accounts receivable spreadsheet, and I make notes that this thing looks ridiculous. I wish I could show it to you, but it would not make any sense. But I make notes on there, and then I go back and call. Now, and I do that when I'm driving down the road. I got plenty of windshield time in my life, so I make phone calls to do that while we're going down the road. And so that was the story LeAnn was telling. So go back to your deal.
Well, no, I think, the phone call to me, it's personal. You've made a personal contact with them. Usually my next step is a demand letter. And I kind of do that two different ways. I have a end of the year letter that I send out with the last set of statements, just saying, and I kind of have the advantage of blame it on the board. The board wants me to clear up these accounts before the end of the year. Please, get this bill mailed back into us. I also have one that I send out kind of during the year that, is a demand letter saying, I've contacted you now on the phone. I haven't had a response from you. I need to get this paid, and kind of basically threaten that, we'll turn it over to a small claims court or something like that, to try to get a response at that point. My end of the year letter, to be honest, is the most effective, and that's just, like I said, that everybody kind of thinks about, oh, I need to make that, I need to finish that out for the end of the year. And so I'll usually get any late payments then. So that works well for me. And I don't know, what works better for you. Negotiate, listen to why they can't pay you. If there's a problem, they've, had sickness in their family or something like that, I'll listen to them and I'll set up a payment schedule. But I make sure before we get off the phone that we have it documented, that I've got it written down, make sure that they have, if they're going to pay me $100 a month for the next year, then we've got that written down. And I will try to either email them that or send another letter just saying, we've got this arrangement worked out. I don't do this very often, because usually they'll just go ahead and, give me a credit card and go ahead and make the payment if it gets down to that. So that's, that works for some people probably better than me, but it's just not something that I really do a lot of. Kind of the next thing from that is kind of turn it over to collections and know when to turn it over to collections. I think Kent probably does this more than I do. We don't have a debt collection agency. I try not to let it get to that point. So that's, you can probably tell a little bit more about that because you use that.
Yeah, we do. We have a company that does it. They do it on a percentage basis. So if they don't get anything collected, they don't get paid, and we don't owe them anything. So basically what we do is we invoice, and I'll kind of go through what we do is, and what I do. I invoice every Monday. So like the sales I would have had over this last weekend, I invoiced on Monday. That way in any work I do. So anything that I've done for Focus, pictures or videos that I've shot in the previous week, I send all those into John Boddicker. I email all those to him on Monday, and then they go out that day. So we invoice as we get them in. He invoices every day. So whenever we get stuff working in, we send it out. Now after 90 days, we send, if it has not been paid in 90 days, because most of the work we do, these guys are pushing to try to get closer to their sale dates anyway. So we take pictures and videos sometimes 10 days before sale. So within 15 days of us invoicing, they've already been paid or they've already had their sale. So, and that's one thing we need to address too, because in LeAnn's case, she does some work for advertising for a sale that might be 60 to 90 days away. So then already she's invoiced for that ad, and that sale might not happen. And most of these people won't pay until they've already had the sale. But in our specific case, we invoice 90 days later, we send a second invoice, and we give them 30 days to pay that invoice. After that 30 days, we're going to add 5% interest on it. And then after 180 days, so 6 months after we've invoiced, if we haven't collected it, I turn it over to collections agency. Now in 5 years, we've sent 9 people to collection, and we've been paid on 4 of them. And the other 5 I've written off. So the collection agency thing doesn't work because you give them 40% of it or 60%. I mean, I don't know I remember what the percentage is. They get a high percentage of it. You at least get, what we're trying to do is we're trying to get enough money because we've already paid our people. We've already paid my rep that shot the pictures and videos, and we may not make anything, but we're trying to cover the expenses. Our reps' expenses and the fee because we pay them as they invoice. Now, that was something that I believed in strongly when I started this company. We're going to pay people as they invoice. So the quicker you invoice, the quicker you get paid. And it's our responsibility to get collected. And so that's why it's vital that we keep our accounts receivable in balance. So that's kind of what we do. And it seems to work. We've been in business for 5 years, and we've only sent 9 people to collect. And I'd like to think that that's because I stay on top of accounts receivable. And like LeAnn said, a phone call is the most effective way to collect it. And to get them to answer the phone, I mean, most of them have caller ID now, so they know when Jake's calling, he ain't calling to find out how the weather is in Dunlap, Iowa. He's calling to collect money. And so a lot of times, get them to answer the phone. And there's some techniques I use in that. I might write down on the side of the deal, I called at 8 o'clock in the morning. If they don't answer, I call them at 7 o'clock at night. If they don't answer, I call them at 6 o'clock in the morning. They'll answer then. And so you call at odd hours, and don't call at the same time every time, because a lot of times, they'll get caught off guard and they'll go, oh God, if he's calling at 6, maybe there's something wrong. I mean, I don't know that that's the specific case, but 9 times out of 10, if you call a farmer or a rancher or someone in the agricultural business at 6 o'clock, they're up. Most people are up, and they're not going to get inundated with calls or a bunch of other things going on yet. Now, some of us that have children are getting kids ready for school and those kind of things, but I'm saying a large percentage of the time, early morning or late night calls work the best. So that's how we do it. And in my specific case, I won't go back and work a sale for someone the next year when they call if they haven't paid me. But I can count on one hand in this business, in all my years. I mean, I've been doing this for 30 years. I can only remember a very couple times that I was forced to say, oh, I can't come back to your sale until I get paid. Or I'll come work it this year, but I'm going to get a check from last year and this year before I work anything. And I have no problem. I mean, there again, it's not personal. This is all business. And we have relationships with people. And I guess what the thought process that I go into collecting the money is I've supported you. I've provided you with my expert service or our expert services, and we deserve to be paid. And my analogy is, they don't leave your lights on in your house if you don't pay your electric bill. Or if you don't make that truck payment, they let you drive it forever. Okay? The bottom line is, we've provided you a service at a fair value, and we expect to be paid. And you can be empathetic with them, but firm. And that's kind of the philosophy I take with it. So, you have another slide? Oh, there you go.
Yeah, I've got just a couple more. Legal action, small claims court, that is an option. That's something I have never done. If it's over a certain amount, each state has a limit, so just kind of know your state's limit if that's something that you're planning to do. If it's over your state's limit, then you're probably going to have to hire an attorney. I've never done that. We'll just write it off just because, one, I don't have the time to deal with that. A lot of states, if you're going into small claims court, do not allow you to have a lawyer, so you have to, state your case yourself, and I don't have the time to do that. But that's know that is an option, depending on how much somebody owes you. And hopefully, if you're at that point, then, you've already cut them off and they are not advertising with you anymore, or, you're not going to their sale or something like that. And kind of the last thing is some of the errors, and I guess some of these I've learned over the years myself. The last slide is, we're really bad. I'm really bad about not having a contract. I just take somebody's word. Sometimes you may need to think about doing that, having a contract, and have records, keep a record of what y'all have talked about, what you've agreed on as price, so that somebody doesn't come back later and say, oh, no, wait a minute, I didn't, I hadn't planned to pay this, or, this was more. The credit policy, which is something that I don't have here, that probably needs to be written up, just for if I'm not going to be here forever, maybe, and so whoever's after me then needs to have a policy, because these accounts will be going on long after whoever's employed here is gone. one that I get into a lot is, I don't want to offend a good customer. I have some people that have been advertising with us for years, but they are slow about paying. And, you usually have to give them a call, a month or two after the sale saying, hey, you had your sale, now I need to get my money. One of the others, like, if a customer passes away or files bankruptcy, has a sellout. I've gotten into that. I've had a dispersal before, and they've not paid their bill after their dispersal, and you don't have a lot of options then. And then I guess kind of like the final thing, like Ken had talked about, he's got a time, know when to turn that debt over, know when, at 30 days, at 60 days, when you need to make that first phone call, when you need to send that letter, those kind of things. So that's kind of what I have. I mean, I think we do everything different. Kent was talking about, I do bill usually around the 15th of the month after the magazines come out. Just kind of my time frame when I can do it. That seems to work for me because most of the time everybody will get money back in to me by the end of the month, and so that helps me with my bookkeeping. But there are times when people are having a sale and they're advertising 3 to 4 months in advance, and I won't get the money. So for me to assess a finance charge at 90 days, I might not can do that because they are have not had their sale yet. So, but it is a business. No matter how good a customer is, if they're not paying you, they're not a good customer. So, that's kind of what I have. Is there, I don't know, Ken, if you want to throw in anything else, but if y'all have any questions,
there are quite a few questions, LeAnn. So,
okay.
You guys ready?
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay. All right. Well, let's start off with this one. Do you think that there are relationships that are ruined and damaged by non-pays?
I think so.
How do you handle those situations, I guess?
In an association, it's hard for me, but we've had some people that have not paid, and, they avoid you, when you're at the livestock show or, during State Fair or Dixie National, they're kind of, they'll see you at the other end of the aisle and they'll avoid you. Usually though, if they're in the wrong, they're not going to talk bad about the association. That's one thing I always have to worry about is, the association but yeah, I think, relationships are definitely hurt. And if they come back later on and want to advertise again, I ask for that payment if they didn't pay previously, and then they have to prepay for everything from that point on, without a doubt. And that's even if, say for 2 years, they're great about prepaying and they want to say, hey, can I just wait till after the sale to pay you? It's not an option for them anymore. They have to continuously prepay everything.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And I agree. I concur with LeAnn on that. One really quick story. I've only not been paid ever 3 times, and 2 of those times was, I knew I probably wasn't going to get paid anyway because it was like LeAnn said, one was a big dispersal sale that I'd done. First time I'd ever worked the sale, and I never got paid on it. And every time I went back to them, it was like, your bill's too high and whatever, kind of thing. But they knew going into it what I was going to bill. And then one time, I think you can salvage relationships, especially if you have personal relationships with people. And everybody gets in. Sometimes people get into financial problems with them. And I think if you're still empathetic with them, and don't really take a bad attitude with them, I think eventually everybody knows they owe you the money. And it bothers them just as much as it bothers you not getting paid. And I think if you maintain that relationship with them, although it might not be as close a one as you had, eventually you might get paid. And I'll tell you a really quick story. I had a guy that didn't pay me for some llama sales back in the day when the llama thing was really busy. And I worked a lot of llama sales for a friend of mine, and at his funeral, his widow handed me a check for the money he owed me. And I was at his funeral. And so I maintained that relationship with him, and it was 6-7 years later. So, but he never paid me because those sales were not very good at the end, and I still billed him. I mean, I still billed my fee, and he owed me $2,000, and at his funeral, his widow handed me a check for $2,000. They knew they owed me the money, and showing up at his funeral, I don't know what it was, but she had an envelope with my name on it and handed me a check. So I'm just saying, I think you can maintain those friendships and those relationships, but maybe at an arm's length. And eventually, hopefully, someday, I mean, you may get reimbursed for that.
But, there are times when producers get in binds. I mean, especially this right now with the market the way it is, there are going to be people that are going to be a lot slower paying, probably for the next few months, these fall sales. And, I think as long as you make that phone call and you talk to them and you like I said, listen, why can you not pay? What is the problem, and work out something with them. I think that'll salvage, the relationship that you have with them. If you're honest with me, that goes a lot further than if you just avoid me. If you just do not answer that email or things like that. If you call me and say, hey, sale didn't do as well, the heifers just didn't sell. I've got, I spent a lot of money to advertise, can you start taking, $200 a month or whatever the price is, or it's going to take me, till the end of the year to pay you. I'm a lot more understanding of that than if you just avoid me, or look at me when I call or when I walk up to you somewhere and you say, oh, I didn't know I got a bill from you. Well, open your mail occasionally. So, that to me, I mean, they know they owe it. They're just sitting there acting like they don't. So, I feel like that if you, make an effort, I'll make an effort with you too.
Yeah, I think being able to work with people is the key to it. I think if you're open-minded to help them, especially I just think your word still should mean something. And if they give you their word, they're gonna pay it, then I'm willing to work with them however I need to do it to help them get through it.
Because, I mean, let's face it, most of us do our, we take ads over the phone. We never see them. We never get to talk to them. So we're on a trust basis on this. So anyway.
A lot of our questions are around the same topic, and so I'm trying to make sure I don't be too repetitive here, but Maggie asked, do you think some people take advantage because of the personal relationships we tend to have with them? Does anyone share a payment policy with clients before they start business with them? If so, what would that look like?
Well, that's all great in theory, to have a contract with somebody about, hey, we expect this payment by this day, but in reality, in our industry, that doesn't happen. And I think there would be such a huge shock factor to people. Now, if you're a contract laborer, for instance, I sign a contract to announce Louisville. I mean, when I go down and announce Louisville, I have to sign a contract, and it states in there specifically what I get paid, my expenses get reimbursed, and when I'm going to be compensated. I mean, it says at the conclusion of the final show that I announce, I get a check. And in that contract, and I've always thought, well, that's kind of cold and everything, but on the other hand, last year when I did it, they walked right up to me and handed me a check, which I thought was kind of cool, really. And I think it goes back to my analogy about, the thing I try to stress to people when I'm on a phone call with them, about telling them what you're going to tell them, and then tell them what you told them. It's very simple in that too. And I think everybody's contract, I don't think there's a specific right or wrong contract you can have with people. It can be a simple little agreement that you can, before you do the work, especially with today's technology, with emails and text messages and whatever. I think you can do that. You can be something that's very soft. It can be something as simple as stating that you're going to perform the work on a specific day, and we expect payment within 90 days. and sign it. And if they've got that hard copy, you both sign it, then they know that they're committed to pay within 90 days or whatever it might be. But I think as a generality in our business, in agriculture, I think that is something that's not done very much, and I think it's more of a shock factor. But I think also lets people know that you're running a business and you expect to be paid.
Yeah. No, I think Kent's right. You know, I know in livestock publication, you know, if you're working with a sale manager, I mean, you pretty much know that once he gets settled up with the farm or ranch that, you know, you'll get paid. So, but, you know, I guess with my smaller ads, which I refer to those a lot because those are ads that run every month. When somebody sets that up, I tell them, you know, we have a payment option. You know, we can bill you monthly, quarterly, or yearly, and I let them choose. And so that, I guess, kind of there is a little bit of a contract because they know when they're going to need to make their payment. So, but you know, to send a contract to somebody to get them to sign it and send it back, and to be honest, I usually don't have much trouble with farms. A lot of mine are some of the more small businesses. I have a little bit more problem with getting my money. You know, occasionally I'll have, like I said, a slow farm or ranch that won't pay, but a lot of times it's a smaller business that I have the biggest amount of problem with.
Any other questions? Yeah, Maggie just brought up, I don't know, LeAnn, if you can see, and I know you can't maybe see this, Jake, but for magazine advertising, she said we have a contract to place ads, which includes terms of payment.
And that's
so they sign a contract before they run the ad?
Yes.
Wow. Okay. I always found it hard enough to sell enough advertising every month, let alone get them to sign a contract and get all the copy and the photos in.
I'm kind of with Ken on that one. I mean, you know, I'd love to have a contract on some of these, but you know, agencies and things like that, I have contracts a lot of times, but from individual farmers, I'm lucky if, you know, half of them don't have a computer, let alone, you know, I'll have to mail it to them and then get it mailed back. I mean, you know, I've got some guys that just, you know, they refuse to get email. They still want to fax me photos.
And that's another thing I forgot to add to my deal. When I work a sale for people, I send them, I know this sounds barbaric, and everybody on here, and I know especially Christy Lee will roll her eyes at this, but I handwrite an invoice still, and have forever. I've always done it. I carry an invoice book. I handwrite an invoice. I put a business card in it, and I write a note on there, and I thank them for their continued business, and I sign my name. I just put Jaecke on it. I mean, make it very informal, and I think that personal touch. People don't write enough letters anymore. People don't communicate, don't send cards enough. Yeah. I know, look at LeAnn, she's laughing her butt off at this, but I'm telling you, that's part of the reason why I get paid is I handwrite an invoice out. I email it to them every Monday, and I stick it in the mail. And that way, nobody has a reason to say, well, I don't check my email. Well, you know, nobody ever says that to me because for the last some 30 years, I've been sending handwritten invoices to people. And just like, you know, I worked 3-4 sales last week. I just sent all those invoices out Monday. I worked one yesterday, and I won't invoice it until this coming Monday. I just do that every Monday. And I get into that habit, and then that way, hopefully, the income comes in at a gradual basis too. If you send your invoices out on a gradual basis, you don't get these spikes and these lows and these highs in your income coming in. Because if any of you that have to budget for yourself, it's terrible. You get all this money in, so you spend it all because you got it, and then you ain't got any money. You go, oh, where's the money come from? But if you keep your invoices going out on a steady basis, you get your income coming in on a steady basis. But I handwrite invoices still to this day.
I may handwrite a note at the bottom of my invoice that I do on QuickBooks, but I don't do that. You know, occasionally I will write a handwritten note at the bottom, you know, for different reasons, you know, thanking them or you know, different things. But and that may be something, I don't know if y'all want to discuss, like, you know, what programs you use. We're using QuickBooks now. It's not my favorite, but it seems to work pretty good. It's now we can email a lot of our invoices, so that's helped some. It just gets everything out to people a little faster, and then I'll go ahead and send a tear sheet and a mailed copy, you know, later. But
hopefully that answers the questions.
Yeah. Anybody else? There's a little sideline banner over here about one of you guys.
Well, I'm sure.
that's what I was laughing about.
Thank God I can't see it.
Cracks me up.
I can only guess who it is.
A good friend.
I'm sure it is.
Can you guys see what I'm doing here? What am I doing?
I can't. I see you squinting.
That I am. No, if there's no more, are there any other questions? Maggie's typing. Maggie, you can just ask it. I'm watching. Trying to promote our next one. Not very good at this. Maggie says, we need more conversations with you. You're funny.
Who, with me?
Yeah, but she also said that she has a sample contract if anybody would like to see it. Maggie, do you want to put your email down there so everybody's got it if they'd like to see it? Can you guys see what I just posted up there? Did that work? On the screen?
Well, I can't.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. Well,
Yes.
thank you. I've never tried that before, so I thought this was a good day to try it. Well, first of all, thank you guys so much for being a part of this. I know that it's one of those topics that is challenging at best at times, but I think it's easy to see why people have, a good rapport with you and why you're able to maintain those relationships because of the extra attention that you give to people and how you treat them. This will be available, so if people weren't able to be on the call today, I'm going to push this out once it's saved and I get the video uploaded. It'll be a YouTube video that we can share. I wanted to let you know that our next Coffee and Collaboration is going to be on November 16th from 10 to 10:45. And that is going to be Beyond the Raw. Scott Stebner is going to share some tips on how he edits in Lightroom or Capture One, and he's going to focus on how he conducts color grading in Photoshop and a bunch of things for, I would say, advanced users. So Jaecke might really just be a watcher on this one, but we did want to provide something for all of our members because we recognize that some people are just dabbling in photography, but we have several that are really advanced, and we want to make sure that we're helping all of our members grow and improve through these coffee and collaborations. Also, if you have any ideas for future topics, we're going to be taking a break for December, but then we'll resume again in January. So need to start getting that slate of topics set for next year, but we've really enjoyed covering a variety of things this year so far and are just always open for your ideas and suggestions. And I see Diane typing. Are there any last comments or thoughts before we end today?
The only thing I was going to say was I think persistence. I think you have to set a plan up to do this. Anybody that complains about not being able to collect their invoices does not have a plan in place. And I think, on a personal basis, I mean, specifically, I talk about from an independent contractor standpoint. At Focus, I think we do a really good job of what we're doing. All in all, our plan works. But in my specific case, like I said, I think you have to be very persistent at what you're doing. And I think if you're not getting your invoices collected, it's because you don't dedicate the time and do it effectively, because you can't just keep sending invoices out because they're never going to pay them. What's that definition of insanity? And I think you need to do some different things every once in a while and change it up a little bit, but you can still maintain those friendships. And remember, this is not personal. It's business. You've provided the service. You provided the services, or you've created an advertising. You've created whatever you've done for your client, and you deserve to be compensated for your work.
I agree. I mean, it's hard. This is just as important as putting the magazine together every month, is getting paid. And you do have to dedicate, some time to it. And it's not a fun job. I mean, I do not enjoy calling people, and, I don't get ugly with them, but, I'm stern with them and say, hey, we need to get our money. That's why I do use the board a lot, as, making sure that people know that, it's not just me, that, the association needs the money and things like that. So it's very important. And to get paid and get paid on time, so that we don't carry these, over for 6 months to 8 months. I think it's very important. But anyway, thank y'all for having me today, and I enjoyed it.
Me too. Good. Thank you very much for asking.
Yes, thank you guys for doing it. We appreciate it. It's fun to hear your perspectives. And I just wanted to shout out, if you're able to be on the AMS Program Committee Conference call, it's going to take place at 11 a.m. today. So just contact Diane if you'd like to join in. So thanks again, everybody. Have a great week, and we'll be in touch next month.
Okay. See you guys.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.